All right. What we are doing today is looking at more optimization problems, all right? More difficult problems and more things that you're going to think about. How are you going to link all your maths, what you have learned, to optimization problems, all right? So, what I'm going to do is give you steps that involve in solving optimization problems using calculus, and then be able to formulate and solve optimization problems using calculus. Now, here I want to stress, we're going to use calculus. All right? Think about the sign test. So the seven-step generalization of the optimization process, you start off with diagram and equation. Important to think about what the diagram, whether you're going to diagram or whether you're going to draw it. Just like recall what I've shown you last week when we have the distance travel problem, you need to be able to draw the right angle triangle. Alright? Now, at this stage, we'll look at single variable only. We're doing substitution. Differentiate, and then you let dy dx equal to 0, and then solve it. Alright? Now, here, I'm going to highlight the first derivative test. You must use first derivative test to actually do your answer the question. Check that whether is maximum or minimum, and then answer the question. Alright, so the 7 steps. You need to know the 7 steps. Let's start looking at the first problem. Find the maximum volume of a right circular cylinder that can be inscribed in a cone of altitude 12 centimeter and a base radius 4 centimeter, given that the axis of the cylinder and cone coincide. Now, what do you need to do at the first thing? Yeah?
You can like simplify the problem down so you can just try and get like 2
Yeah, that is the second step actually. That's good. But what is the first step? You've got a diagram in front of you. What do you do on the diagram? Label it. So you must do this. So you know exactly where the 12 is, you know the radius 4, and now I have defined the height of the cylinder as h. So labeling is important. Labeling so that you could use that. The next step is like what? I should say, making it a triangle problem. How do you make it into a triangle problem? Alright, now you've got that. Next step, you can state what is the volume of the cylinder. Use what you have learned. The volume of the cylinder is pi r squared h. Right? So you know the cylinder has got the base, the radius is 4 centimeter, and that's r. That's incorrect. Sorry, I'll change that. That should be r. That should be 4. All right. That should be r. My fault. Label it incorrectly slightly. So label that as r, the radius of the cylinder, and that is 4. That was my fault. Make sure that you understand what is done. And then make it into a triangle problem. As in, similar triangle. Can you see that? Yeah? So you've got a similar triangle. You know that this is 12 minus h is h. The whole thing is 12. And this is r, and this is 4. Now, express h in terms of r. Alright? So now 12 minus h over 12, which is this over the whole thing, is actually r over 4. Use a similar triangle, what you have learned in year 9. Alright? And year 10. So use a similar triangle. You are going to derive an equation where h is in terms of r. You can work out h and r. Alright, h in terms of r. So now what you can do is work out the volume of the cylinder in terms of R, correct? Sorry? So you've got two things now. First step, you label the diagram. Go back to the 7 steps I gave you, think about the diagram, and then you derive an equation and substitute it. You don't know H and R, but you want to represent H in terms of R. So use the idea of a volume of a cylinder, and then use the idea of a similar triangle. You've got similar triangle, this is right angle, and this triangle should be similar to that triangle. Alright? You don't have to prove. You look at it, you should know that it's a similar triangle. And do a DVDR. Once you've done your DVDR, you should know that for maximum or minimum, DVDR needs to be 0. Alright, and I'm going to let you solve the others. I'm going to stop here for a minute. So I've guided you through to the first couple of steps. Once you can do the first couple of steps, you should be able to do the next few. Can you solve for R? What would R be? I need you to be able to solve for R. Can R equals to 0? Thank you. So you did remember R is 0 or 2.66, 666666 or whatever. So at this stage, you really have to reject R equals to 0 because R cannot be equal to 0. If R equals to 0, the cylinder doesn't exist. Correct? Yeah. So therefore, now, the reason I put down 2.66 with the dot there, I want all of you to realize that when you're doing the calculation, you should be using the value from your calculator, 2.66666667. Alright? A lot of you didn't remember that for your investigation. For the investigation, a lot of you did not remember that you need to use everything from the calculator. I'll explain it on Wednesday. So, I mean, it's 1 mark, so it's not a big deal. All right? But you got to try to avoid losing that sort of mark. It's an accuracy thing. In ways, they actually look for accuracy. You have to use your calculator and just follow through because your class pad is powerful enough to do that. All right? So keep going. Reject R equals to 0. You can write R equals 2.67 centimeter. That's fine. All right? But when you do your sign test. Do your sign test. The sign test is actually based on the derivative. All right? So if it is less than 2.67, well, of course, R cannot be equal to 0. But if it is 1, 24 pi minus 9 pi is positive. Correct? When it's 10, 240 pi minus 900 pi is negative. Use that. Use really small number or really big number. Something you can really work it out in your head. All right? Of course, you cannot use 0 because 0, that doesn't exist. So you need to be able, now this one is one of the things that you're restricting the domain. Correct? It has to be greater than 0. It cannot be less than 0. The domain is restricted. Do you all agree? Yeah? So it has to we have to restrict the domain for this one. And therefore, R equals to 2.67 will yield the maximum volume, and then you can work out. All right? Although I wrote 2.67 square, I think I used the 2.6666 in the calculator and worked that out to be 89.36. So the steps, I think the hardest bit is here. Derive the equation. Once you can derive the equation, the rest is pretty much standard. Interpreting the question and making sure that you label the diagram is so important. Once you can label the diagram, you should be able to see your right angle triangle or your similar triangle. Do you all agree with that? Yeah? Now ask me any question. I don't mind looking at that. Ask me any question. Have you got any question that you want to ask me? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next one. Think about the next one. I will let you read it first. Question 3 will be the hardest. Alright? I'm going to let you think about that first. Now, even before you draw the diagram, could you all please highlight the important information? What actually is the important information in this question? Sorry? Triangles or square? Thank you.
Wait, is it volume or area?
Sorry? Volume. So highlight the thing that you think is important for this. Congruent square, everything's the same. The four squares are the same.
Oh.
The 4 squares are the same. So you are cutting away 4 congruent squares, 4 squares exactly the same. Alright? So you cannot have 2 different types of squares. So now this is what I did. I highlighted the card, the measurements of the card, which is 30 centimeter and long and 16 centimeter wide. I highlighted the word congruent squares, so I know I have got to cut out 4 congruent squares from each corner. So 4 congruent squares, and folding out the edges, and then find the maximum volume and its dimension. So you know that you must find the maximum volume, you must find the dimension. It is so important. Like I say, I would think if this question were to be in the exam, that would be 50% of the people who will just give me maximum volume and not give me the dimension. Right? So here, it's so important. Highlight what is required. Please, especially in WAIS exam. Alright? WAIS exam or any exam that you are facing in the future, make sure that you highlight what is required. Now, what is the first thing you need to do? Draw a diagram. Very good. Can you try the diagram, please? I've seen someone doing it. Draw the diagram. Someone is doing the right thing. It doesn't matter how you define. I'm defining X. I'm defining something as X. You can see that, alright? I didn't really animated that, so you can see that I've defined something as X. Good, good. Once you've drawn the diagram, what do you have to do? Right? Thank you to the dimension. So here, this is how I did it. Alright? So I have got the congruent square. Not that I've drawn it really well, but you can see that those are the 4 squares taken out. So I've got X. It really doesn't matter what you use. You can use anything. Alright? So therefore, I know this 30 minus 2x and 16 minus 2x. Now, what would be the next step? Before you even look at, yeah? Thank you. That is, and this, you skip one step. That's fine. That's correct. That's correct. The other step that I want you all to be aware of, Asher is absolutely right. What I've done is I drew that out so that I know what it is. I can find the volume, that's one extra step, and then I look for the domain. You need to define the domain. Alright, in this case, like the previous question, define the domain. The previous question was slightly easier in a way that the domain is quite obvious. You know that it's not, cannot be less than 0. Alright, this one, there is a maximum. Alright, you can see that from here. 2x cannot be the same as 16. Correct? Because if 2x is 16, what will happen? This will be 0. Alright? You don't worry about this yet because this is longer than the 16. So the domain you look at is just the shorter side. That side, you look at the shorter side. Alright? Once you've done that, you can work out the domain. X is between 0 and 8. Now, because of defining the domain, you will be able to reject certain numbers. Alright? So domain is actually quite important to think about where you actually find the domain. Alright? Now, here I put a note down. It's just for you. X greater than 0 for it to form a tree. Alright? Okay. So therefore you work out the volume. I'll give you about 5 minutes to do the next step. Do your dVdx and your sign test. 5 minutes. So you now know the volume, and you now know the volume has to be maximum. What sort of paper do you want? Okay. If you want line is, this is the line is here. No worries. Like I say, I'm trying to pick difficult examples so that you know the process. I cannot teach every single question. I cannot teach how to solve every single question. There's so many variations. I'm just picking more difficult examples. Yeah. But 8 is not included anyway. I don't know how you don't have S has to be less than 8, so there's something wrong. Something wrong. Right? So that we know we can find the maximum and the minimum. Find the maximum volume. Yeah, which is the volume. So you want to find the volume, so you differentiate it so that dVdx equals to 0. Alright? So dVdx equals to 0.
What are they equal to 0?
You know that this bit here, you get the domain here, has to be less than 16. 16 minus 2x is less than 16. Alright, we don't have to really worry about that because it's longer, so you need to think about what that x is.
I got minus 184.
Equal to 0, yeah, but after that.
What in her, how do you get minus 46?
The v is like 3x squared minus 46x plus 1. You simplify it, she simplified, divided over
Now, when you do dVdx equals to 0, oops, too fast, oops. Alright. So minimum or maximum happens when dVdx equals to 0. I use a different color just to remind you. So you have to set that equals to 0, correct?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So what you do is divide everything by 4. divide everything by 4. You are dividing things like with a number, so that's fine. Then factorize it. You should know how to factorize, all right? I am expecting all of you to know how to factorize non-monic. So see, you can see that from there, you can, you have to eliminate x equals to 12 because x is between 0 and 8. See that?
Wait, how do you factorize that?
How do I factorize that?
I have no idea.
Oh, come on, go back and practice. So you need 2 numbers when you multiply those two.
Yeah.
Equals 360, and 2 numbers multiply to that and add up to 46 minus 46.
So what are the 2 numbers?
So what are the 2 numbers?
Oh, it's 36 and
There, I've given it to you. All right.
36 and 10.
So you're going to be able to do that. This could potentially be in the calc free section because you could do 10 over 3 potentially I'll say. I'm not going to guarantee that it's not going to be in the calc free section. All right. So if you know x equals to 10 over 3, you have to reject or 12. You have to reject 12 because you have already got the domain. This one I'm going to domain means first, so that you don't actually have to go and work out anything else. All right.
So you can't have
Sorry? It can be 12. If you put 12 in, 16 minus 24.
The short side's more restrictive because you get 15.
Yeah, the short, that's correct.
So you always do the short side.
Yeah, the short side is the limiting factor, isn't it? Because these are x the same. 30 minus 2x will be always greater than 16 minus 2x. So you're focusing on that rate first. Yeah? So you know that where to look for the domain, use the shorter side because that will always be the limiting factor. X is always the same, yes?
Oh, when you do that, like, do you even have to do the sign test?
No, you don't have to. Now that you've rejected 12, you don't have to do the sign test for 12.
What about 10 over 3 still?
Yes.
You can. All right. Now, if you do the sign test for 12, if you didn't do this step, all right, you will find that if you do the sign test for 12, you have to reject your 12 as well. All right. Substituting. If you substitute 12 into here, 16 minus 24, what would happen? It's a negative number. And in the sign test. Yeah, you have to do the sign test for 10 over 3. You definitely have to. You definitely have to do the sign test for 10 over 3.
Yeah, the numbers need
Alright? There is no doubt you have to because this is part of calculus. You are asked to use calculus technique. So once you do the sign test, you can work out the dimension as well as the volume. Alright? So you can see that this question could potentially be in your calc free because you should be able to work all this out without your calculator. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, alright? Now, by the way, when you are, alright, if this is in the calc assume section, you can always plug this into your calculator.
This is not calculated. This is not calculated.
How are you meant to do that?
It could be, because look at the numbers. The numbers are quite alright.
10 times
You do calculate.
70.
Come on! Hey, by the way, I've never got calculator. I was never allowed calculator until uni, so. Alright. See the step that I've done it. Again, diagrams. Okay, domain is an extra step. I just want to make sure that knowing that there's a limit, I want to make sure that if I've got 2 numbers, I know I would because volume is a cube. So when I do a derivative and solve for the roots, I know that there will be 2 numbers. So therefore, I would look for a domain to make sure that I might need to reject one of the numbers, which happened. I have to reject 12. All right? So I answered the question, the dimension, I answered the volume. All right? If you just calculate, I'm pretty sure if you just calculated the volume without saying the dimension, you will not get a mark for the dimension. All right? You must always say that dimension. Oh, this will be a long one. This will probably be a major one. 1 mark for diagrams, and probably work out all the another mark for that, another mark for that. 3. Volume 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Could potentially be up to 10 marks. Yeah, potentially up to 10 marks. All right. This will be okay. Now, when you have questions like this, we will guide you through in the exam. All right?
Like A, B, and C.
Yeah, A, B, and C. Here, there is no scaffolding at all. Here, when I set up the question, I just want you to face with the hardest bit. There's no scaffolding from me at all. So normally in writing the exam, we will scaffold it so that you will not be doing a question with 10 marks. Although I think I've written a test paper before with no scaffolding for one of the year 10 methods 2 years ago, I think.
It's yes.
All right, let's look at this one. An electrical discount store will, on average, sell 100 basic printers per month at $80 each. Observations over time indicate that for every $5 decrease in the price of this printer, an additional 20 printers are sold each month. A new model of the basic printer is about to be made available, and the store wishes to maximize their income on the current model. What price should the store set on the current model to achieve a maximum income? This is a nasty question. A really, 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 really nasty question. You've got to think about quite a few things. You've got to think about things like, on average, so you need to know that a month they sell 100 printers at $80 each. And it says that with the price increase of $5, decrease in $5, additional 20 printers are sold. All right. Now, you want to maximize the income. How do you go about looking for equation? How are you going to link the price drop and the sale for printer? How are you going to do that? Now, I'm going to give you a hint. I'll show you a table. Here, you probably have to set up a table thinking about things like use your idea, your knowledge of sequences. You're looking at the number of $5. Oh, hang on, I don't want to show you that yet. I want you to look at things like the number of $5 drop, and then what is the price? What would be the number sold, and what would be the income? All right. Here, because of the table, I have actually defined the income as R. All right. So the number of $5 drop could be 1. The first one will be 0 because there's no drop. If there's no drop, the price will be 80, and the number of sold will be 100, which is 100 basic printers. So 80 by 100. Look, at this stage, I don't even evaluate that yet for a reason. I'm not going to evaluate that for a reason. This is even nastier than the speed and distance problem. All right? Then I look at the next bit, which is what is the $5 drop? First $5 drop, it will go down to, I know it's $75, but I do not want to write out 75 because I want to work out the equation for the price and the number sold and the income. So you want to know how you could link the income to the price and number sold. All right? Think about what the number sold is and the income. That is so important. So basically the income would be price times the number sold. All right. Now this will be the scaffolding we gave you. In the exam, we will ask you if they sell 100 basic printer for $80 each, how much is the income? And then we'll guide you through. All right. But this one I'm not going to guide you through because I want you all to think. So can you do that, that, and that? The last one will be X. All right. The last one will be X. Yes. Yes.
Check my answers.
What?
For this one.
What is it? The X will be 100%.
Something like that. Yep. Yep. Now I'm showing you step by step how to do it. The step by step that I show you how to do it is a step by step in the exam. It will go through it as a whatever you call it, as a scaffolding. So we might even ask you to fill in this table. All right. So you could see that if this is X, I'm going to replace all this by X, correct? So what you want is the income. Income is the price times the number sold. That is what you want. That's the income. Keep going. This is what I do. So now you've got income in terms of X, the number sold, and the number of price drop. Sorry, not the number sold. The number of price drop. So the first one is the price times the number sold. Now, what is the maximum X you can have?
Infinity.
But in the test, you probably have to
No.
about that.
You cannot give it out for free. So it cannot be 80 as well. It has to be less than 80.
What if it's a charity?
Yeah?
What if it's a charity?
It's what?
What if it's a charity? It's like for independence.
You got to think about this as in this sort of ideal situation that is here. You will probably not even reduce the price below a certain point. All right. Now, therefore, you know the income. The function for income is 80 minus 5x times 100 plus 20x. You can do the next. Differentiate it and do what you need to do. I mean, by the way, when I solved this problem, it took me about 30 to 40 minutes to think through what I need to do, the first step. Well, a bit less, 20 minutes I would say. The first step took me 20 minutes with no scaffolding.
In my opinion, sir, this one was harder.
You think? Oh, you think the first one was harder?
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, that's okay. That's fine. I found this hard, but that's true. It really. If you think the first one is harder, it is harder.
Sorry?
Minus 500 plus.
Could you have a negative? Like the donate?
You can.
That means they make profit to the consumer.
Yeah.
No. What I mean is like have the number of $5 drops.
You cannot be negative. Or you make more money, but no,
Yeah.
you know that the price is $80 each.
Yeah, but then, you know, if we're not increasing the
Because you're increasing the price, but you're decreasing sales.
So yeah, that's correct.
Zero equals minus 100.
All right. So this is what I did, and x equals to 5.5. You see, once you can sort out the table, it makes life a little bit easier. You got the table, you know then x is 5.5. So the drop is 5.5 because the price you can. It's not integer.
Of $5.
5 drop of 5.5, which is $5 times 5. So it's you can work out what the stationary point is. Alright? And that's maximum. And then the price for the printer is 5 times 5.5, which is 27.50. So 52.50.
Yes. But when you do that, it's like this. Are you assuming it's already mapped? You just show the table? Or are you actually
Okay.
working the numbers out?
Generally, what you need to do is,
Yes.
with that, you have to set up a table. Yeah, you're gonna still in your mind think about.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
yeah, but when you assume, because just by separating on the last one max and you've got it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But but sometimes the question cannot. It's not as simple as that. It's just asking
Anyway.
all right. This one is pretty obvious. The sign test. All right. It's pretty obvious. It's just to confirm that it's maximum.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So interesting problems I've given you. 3 questions, and just let me quickly go to the next slide before I come back to this one. So the 7-step generalization. Diagram and equation. Make sure that it's single variable. If not, you need to substitute, differentiate, DDX, solve, first derivative test, and answer the question. Now between 2 and 3, sometimes you may need to put in the domain as well. What is the restricted domain? All right.